Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at our next session at NUGGET 2021. Do you even code, bro? Today's session is led by Solutions Architect here at Netrio, Philip Sperling. And Philip is here live with us today. So if you have any questions for him, please feel free to enter those in the chat section on the right-hand side of your screen. So Philip, all systems are go. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to Do You Even Code, Bro? The first caveat I want to reveal about this is you do not have to be a bro for this presentation here. That is just a silly title that I have here, and I think it's kind of funny, but yeah, definitely anyone and everyone is welcome. So don't think that it's trying to exclude anyone. You do not have to be a bro. Pretty much you just need someone to be interested in, maybe some insights into what I consider to be good little coding practices, even though they are very basic ones in my opinion, as well as some tools that can help you be a better developer, both locally as well as within a team environment. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me start a timer for myself here. So who are you talking with, right? Who's giving this presentation? I am Philip Sperling, Solution Architect here with Netrio. I've been doing that for about 2 years now. Before that, my background is mainly in backend development, .NET, Java, those type of languages, as well as server administration. So doing a lot of scripting and things like that. So that's the kind of the background that I'm coming from. And so some of my references I'll even talk about, maybe come more from the scripting side of things, that kind of stuff, as well as using maybe some languages like Python or PHP that some people maybe aren't as familiar with, but they're very popular. But anyways, that photo there is of myself. I'm actually at a winery here in Missouri. That is where I'm based. And so that is at Blumenhof Winery, I believe. And that there would be a Norton wine. And if you have never had Norton wine, you need to go try it. Norton is the grape of Missouri, so you need to go give it a try. It's amazing. I think it's the best wine out there. And that's not me being biased because I'm from Missouri. So what are we actually going to talk about today? Today, we will be talking about good coding practices. And what I mean by that is really kind of what is it that annoys me whenever I see other people's code, right? There's lots of practices out there, good coding principles, those type of things, whether that's solid or what have you. That's not really what this is going to be about. This is going to be pretty basic stuff, but I guarantee you've seen it, and I guarantee you also got annoyed with it. So please, 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 the stuff that we cover, do not be a developer who does those things. But we also get a little bit more serious at a certain point where maybe we'll talk about some different tools that can actually help you write better code, as well as tools that can be used once you've deployed that code to actually get a better understanding of what's happening once your code is kind of joined with your teams and being utilized, in a server environment with outside users hitting it, or even just internal testers hitting it. But that's kind of what we're going to cover today. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the first thing I want to talk about here when I talk about good coding practices is what I'm trying to get at. So this comment kind of sums it up, right? If you were to inherit code from someone else, or someone leaves that's normally working on a certain section of code, and now you're having to go through their code, or if you're a good company, you're doing great things, you're doing code reviews, you've probably seen stuff like this in code reviews before as well, where the person, it makes 100% sense to them, but to no one else. And I'm sure every single person watching this has already been reading the little comic here. But the whole point is that there is this guy, and he's sitting there saying, what is this here for? There's nothing, in programming, there's all kinds of stuff that you'll stumble upon, and what's its use? I have no idea. Or you'll stumble upon in this case, it's a bridge in the comic, right? But a method or something that just seems to go on and on and on and on. And you're like, this is insane. Like, give me at least a breadcrumb or something about what this is actually trying to perform, right? And in doing so, when you think about like, oh, give me a breadcrumb at least, some people are super kind and they let you know that at least you're on a bridge, right? It's like, thank you. I already knew that. That was the most obvious comment in the world. So that's kind of some of the stuff we're going to try to go over is how to avoid basically when someone stumbles upon your code or starts looking into your code, how to make them not hate you. So at the beginning of this, I kind of mentioned that I kind of come from with some scripting stuff. So this is going to be one of the most basic things to a few of you. If you use any type of IDE, indentation, right? IDEs will do this for you now. They didn't always, but nowadays they definitely do it easily for you. Not all IDEs are as good about it as others, but if you use any type of IDE, this will happen for you. But if you've ever seen code where it's all left aligned, none of it's indented, none of it's spaced. You know, I could care less if you use the 4 spaces, 3 spaces, whatever, or a tab. None of that matters. Just indent it, make it make sense just by looking at it. You know, whenever, I think this is more maybe the scripting language stuff where people are writing it like in maybe even just Notepad, or I mean, even Notepad++ kind of helps you out a little nowadays too. So you really have to be using something archaic at this point. But it's a very, very simple thing, and it makes whoever looks at your code like you just a little bit more, right? If you are ever seeing code like this in the code review, just you send it right back. Don't even accept it. Don't even let it go any further, that kind of thing. But that's the easiest one on the list here, guys. Indentation, do it, make it readable. There's a nice little diagram there on the right-hand side letting you know this is how it should look. Don't let it look like the code on the right. This is also a good slide because it's introducing our little code segment that I will be using throughout here. It's very, very easy. It's very small, right? But we're kind of going to work through some things with it. I kind of will play around with it or whatever. It is definitely not code that I wrote. It's code that I just got from online, and we will make it better over time as we go through this a little bit too. But just know that we're going to be working with it. So the next thing that is a pet peeve of mine is comments. So normally when I give any type of presentation or anything, there is people with me. I'm not, recording it. And there's almost always someone who chuckles when they see this. And that's because we've all seen blocked comment like this, right? Where it basically says no longer using this, or this is obsolete code, or I've replaced this code, or whatever. And it's like, great. So why is it here? What's the point of commenting it out? In my opinion, I would want every language out there to actually remove the ability to do these block codes or block comment sections, to make someone actually go line by line. Like, make it annoying, because this is annoying. We have source control for a reason. It exists. We can get this code back. Like, it's not like this is gone forever if we were to remove it. So definitely do not do this, particularly if you're using an interpreted language. So, there's compiled languages and interpreted languages. If you're using a compiled language, this is not going to be that big of a deal, really. I mean, it's just annoying to the person who reads it, but like at compile time, it parses it and just says, okay, those are all comments, throw them all away. So it doesn't really affect your application much. Like I said, it just kind of annoys whoever it is that sees your code after this, and it's just like, we have source control, stop. But if it's an interpreted language, so if it's a JavaScript or PHP or whatever, some type of interpreted language, this actually does affect the performance of the app, right? So because we are compiling at runtime, basically, it doesn't have it actually reads each one of these and says, oh, that's a commented, oh, that's a commented line, each one of them individually, and so it does actually slow down your application. So in that case, not only are you annoying people, but you're also impacting the performance of the app, which in turn is making your users have a longer time whenever they try to execute whatever actions that have these huge sections of blocked code, blocked comments, And so, yeah, definitely do not do these. Get rid of it. If it's no longer in use, delete it. It's that easy. Source control exists. So moving on with more information in regards to comments, like our nice little comic at the beginning of this kind of had where this is bridge. I tried to make one that's actually a little bit better than that. This doesn't say this is bridge per se, right? It does say determine Warzone bonus. So we at least know what that code is now trying to do, right? But let's try to walk through it and understand it, right? So the first thing here is this if statement with the is X for the employee. What is X? X, like, were they in a past relationship? Are they, an ex? Are they broken up with someone, basically, right? Are they no longer with the company? Is that what it is? Like this is a former employee thing, so they left their company, or what happened, right? Like that makes no sense to me right off the bat. Employee CCs, what we're checking next. You know, CC could mean a lot of things. The CC I know would be like closed caption or carbon copy. I'm trying to think, maybe motorcycles, you know, cubic centimeters. Yeah, but for some reason we're trying to see if it equals SY. So square yards, if we want to somehow mix volume and area, would not be good. System, maybe. I have no idea. Right? No one knows what either none of this means. We got employee FM next. Form, I don't know. Maybe it's something with a radio station. I literally have no idea, right? So, but we're looking for it to be greater than 0. So maybe it's 100.1, the buzz. I have no idea, right? So the point is that none of this is really readable. We get to employee comp, at least comp we understand, right? But the question is, why is it not pay or total pay? Why not make it all the way written out? Like why make it comp? Why abbreviate it? Why are we making it to where I have to try to think about what it could be? But we do see that we are, giving it a 10% bonus there. So at least we did determine at the end of the day, it is in fact making a Warzone bonus, I suppose, somehow, because I don't know what makes Warzone and any of the stuff above it. So the question is that comment needed, right? And in this case, I would say, yes, it helped us a little bit, right? But really what it's doing is it's masking the other problem. And what that other problem is that we have poorly written code, right? These comments, in my opinion, are pretty much just excuses for poorly named variables or method names, really just inadequate programming skills, right? That's what that comment there is trying to do, is trying to mask the fact that I'm bad at writing code. There are going to be times, though, where comments like that maybe are needed. So there's always this whole thing. I know for a fact there's going to be someone that has to ask me or wants to ask me, like, or give me specific details about why I'm wrong about any of this stuff. But to me, comments like this are not needed, because you shouldn't be commenting anything that's obvious. And in my opinion, this should be rewritten to where it is obvious about what it's doing, right? So let's go ahead and move on and say, how could we have written this better? So anyone who knows how to read English, I guess as long as they can read camel case, should be able to come in and read this. That's how your code should be. Your code should not have to have comments. It should be able to be just read as if it's sentences or if it's statements, right? It should make sense to anyone and everyone. So that if I bring in some Joe Schmo, some maybe junior developer off the street, they can know what in the world is going on. So in this case, we can see employee is salary. That must have been what that is, EX. So I guess that meant is exempt. So we can figure that one out now, is in Warzone, right? So that's the next thing. So I assume somehow that's what that CC equals SY means. And I'm sure there's some military guy out there just being like, yeah, obviously that's what that meant. Everyone knows that. Well, us civilians do not know that. That was not just boom, everyone gets it. So that's what that must have meant. Next thing here, the family members. So that must have been what FM was. We were looking for greater than 0. So do they have any family members? And if so, we were trying to add this family Warzone bonus. Now, what we also have in this code now is an add single Warzone bonus when they don't have family members, which wasn't even in our old code segment, which probably means that it still wasn't even written fully correctly. Right now, we've actually added in more what we need for it to actually be accomplishing in this scenario. Now, I also know that there's some of you out there who are reading this and saying this still isn't very good code. You are correct. This is definitely able to be optimized even further and further and further. And about what I'm about to show you, I want to preface it again. It could even be better than what I'm about to show, but here is another segment of code where we've made it better, right? So now we're basically making a check for that salaried in Warzone. And if either one of them is false, we just, or either one of them is, in this case, we're doing not, right? So it's kind of difficult, but to make it easy to understand, if either one of those is not true, then we return, meaning we're just done. And then if we're able to say both of those are technically true, they are salaried and they are in a war zone, then we go on and figure out if they are having family members and whatnot. So this would speed up that processing time depending on how big of our data set is that we're looking through. Which kind of brings me to my next thing. How do I know if I am writing good code, right? How do I know if this is better than what I had before? Or if I were to readjust this to make it better, how do I know that it's better? And so that's where tools will come into play, right? Being able to have some type of tool that actually allows you to objectively see this method is taking X amount of time. So then you can adjust and say, now it takes this amount of time. So Netrio actually has a tool called Prefix that will do this for you. So we use Code Profiler, and you can attach this with most of your IDEs. We do this with 6 different languages, whether that's .NET, Java, PHP, Python, Ruby, and Node.js. It also works on multiple operating systems with Windows, Mac, Linux. So pretty much however you're coding right now, the main popular stuff is all covered. What this allows you to do is get those objective insights into your code, right? You can see how long is each one of my methods taking in milliseconds. As you can see over here on the left-hand side, we're showing you in milliseconds how long each individual section is taking. So you get these detailed details into the methods and the timings of what's going on in your requests. We also will show you your logs right in line with the profile. We'll also show you, whenever you're calling external things, whether that's Redis or Elasticsearch or something in your code like that. If you're having any exceptions that occur, they're going to be listed right there for you as well. So you can see exactly when in that transaction that particular exception occurred. And we'll also show you details around SQL statements. I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second. But the big thing is be able to show you the timings into those SQL statements, the number of records that were returned, that kind of stuff. And at the bottom there of this particular profile, you can see that we also have the web request status or the response code that's being sent. So 200, 400, 500, whatever it might be, right? But the objective of this tool is obviously to be able to give you insights into your code as you're troubleshooting it locally. So this is a tool that goes on your local laptop, and as you write your code in your IDE, say it's Visual Studio, you fire off a debug instance to analyze your code. You can actually see the details and the traces being generated, the logs that are being generated, all that kind of stuff with Prefix right there handy for you. So let's go into some of that SQL. So one of the things that is kind of cumbersome nowadays a little bit is the fact that we all use ORM tools. So we're no longer opening up and closing these connections ourselves to the database. We're no longer really writing out SQL statements like we used to. We're letting essentially our domain class kind of do that for us. And this is very beneficial because it makes it easy on the developer, but also it means that a lot of the time you're not exactly sure what was just sent to the database. So being able to actually see the exact query that was sent to the database, see how long it actually took to get the records back, how many records were returned, but also being able to easily come in here and say, I would like to copy that, go over to my DBMS, paste it in, and see exactly what records are being returned. So then you can analyze the data that's being returned back in that select statement to make troubleshooting easier, to make, whenever you're adding new features or whatever you're trying to do with your code, you can make that an easier process as well. So it's an extremely handy feature that we allow you to have very easily. It's actually not in the screenshot here, but you can have just a button click to be able to copy any of those different select statements there. But with this, like I said, you're tracking your ORM, you're tracking to see if you have any issues with that, right? So there's going to be times where you probably select more records than you think, and then you loop through them all, and now all of a sudden you're taking way more time in your code than what you expected yourself to do. And so that's going to be stuff that being able to profile your code. And again, if you're doing this locally and seeing that it's taking longer than you expected locally, then whenever you push this out to production and you're going through larger data sets, it's going to be even worse. So being able to get those insights here locally before you even push it to dev, it's going to save you time as a developer. It's going to save you money as a company. And honestly, it's just going to make you end up looking like a better developer anyways. No one wants to be that person who looks like an idiot during code review, right? So a prefix or some type of code profiling tool allows you to kind of be able to look a little bit smarter maybe than what you are, right? The other part of prefix that's very handy here is actually being able to see your logs. So as you are debugging locally, your log files get written. We're actually showing you those as well. Those actually can be broken out to another screen. You can import logs into it. It's a very handy feature there because again, logs are a developer's best friend, in my opinion. They're kind of, you know, your breadcrumbs back and trying to figure out what will happen whenever you're diagnosing an issue. And so, you know, being able to see those within Prefix as you debug locally, as well as whenever there isn't an error that has occurred and you're trying to figure out what's going on, you know, being able to see how those get written and making sure that you can reproduce things, all that kind of good stuff, is right there handy for you in Prefix. And like I said, it's meant to be on your local laptop so that you can, as you do your debugging and try to, you know, determine where that bug is or determine where you're having an issue or fix that new feature that just came out and, you know, you just released it and all of a sudden you're getting all these bugs. Being able to see it within Prefix helps you as you try to, you know, fix those coding issues right there locally. But once you've taken your code from your local laptop and pushed it out to a dev server or QA or staging or wherever you hopefully have some type of non-prod environment, that is another big pet peeve of mine. And it's crazy how many clients I talk to that don't even have non-production environments. But you'd want to analyze it there as well. So we actually have another tool called Retrace. So Retrace is meant to be put on different servers out there, whether it's a development server or QA, like I said. It then analyzes both the server itself, so it gathers all kinds of server metrics. It also will be profiling any of the applications that are hosted there. So in this case, what I'm showing you a screenshot of is some of the what's called APM. So that is going to be the buzzword, if you will, or the thing that you would want to go look up after this call. And what you're looking at is where is my application actually spending its time on the server. So what I actually pulled here is the last 4 hours or so. And this is saying that in the last 4 hours, 27.5, that's what I highlighted, % of the time is spent doing that one request that gets Stackify tracked. So as a developer, you'd be saying there, why am I spending that much time in that one request? Is it because it's getting called a lot more than the rest? Obviously not. You can see the number of requests that each one has had, but you can see that it's taking 2.87 seconds on average, which is quite a bit higher than some of those other requests. So then what we could do is actually click into those and look into the details around it. We could see on average where is it spending its time, whether that's a database call, an external web request, you know, whatever it might be, to get a little more detailed into it. But I will show you in a second that you can actually go even further detailed and get that trace level view like we did in Prefix, but on the server itself. But before I do that, I do want to also point out that we do logs. So within Retrace, you're going to have a centralized logging platform. So what this allows is for whenever you have multiple servers, maybe that's 4 production servers, right? And someone has an issue and you have to go search for it. Well, normally you have to go to each one individually, log in, maybe send a couple of requests to be able to search certain files and finally find whatever it is that you're looking for. So having that centralized logging platform allows you to search all of them across the board at once. And because we are both logging as well as tracing, as well as capturing any exceptions that you have, we show you those buttons on the right-hand side over here, so you can actually jump straight from a log right to that trace breakdown I'm about to show you as well. So that, again, whenever you're having some type of issue, you can speed up that troubleshooting time, right? So you can jump straight from a log right into a trace. Or if you're wanting more details around an exception, you can actually click that view of that bug there and get more details into the error itself. Be able to see how many times is it occurring, when was the last time it occurred, you know, the stack traces associated with it, all that kind of good stuff will be there for you. But again, that centralized logging platform allows you to be able to search everything at once, be able to jump straight from this log right into this nice trace breakdown. Now, in this particular instance, it's actually not the same one, but this is what Retrace will be able to show you. It's kind of like that similar view that you kind of saw with the Prefix. In fact, it is very, very similar because we are doing essentially the same thing, but instead of just on your local laptop, this is whenever users are actually hitting these, you know, requests in production or QA or whatever it might be. We're able to show you that code profile that's happening on the server itself. So you get details around the request, what the request was, when, and how long did it take to occur, right? The exact timestamp there. See what server it actually occurred on, the app it was for. You then get that breakdown into each individual method call that's being called. So as you go through, you can see how long is each individual one taking. In this case, you can see our big culprit here is this external API call, actually. But also within this, you will see that we do show your exceptions in line, just like we did in Prefix. You can see opening connections to databases. You can see what database you connected to. If we expanded that, which I didn't in the screenshot, but if we did, you actually see the select statement that was sent to the database, the number of records returned, and how long that's taken to complete. So this is where the power of APM is, right? So you can actually see exactly what's happening, how long is each individual method taking. Whenever you combine this, with the logs and the errors, whenever you're trying to troubleshoot, it makes it so much faster, so much easier. You can do this reactively, so you can actually get alerted whenever you have issues in performance or alerted to particular bugs, exceptions, log messages, whatever that might be. You can get alerted to logs not occurring too, right? Like a dead man log, whatever that might be. So you can actually get alerted, respond to an issue within Retrace, or you can use Retrace in the proactive approach, right? Being able to fix issues in dev, in QA, in staging before they even make it to prod. And again, the further left, if you can solve it with Prefix on your local laptop, you're saving the most time and money for the company there, right? So that's the whole goal of Prefix with APM throughout your SDLC, being able to solve all these problems, write better code as you go, being able to solve things before they make it to production. And if they do happen in production, which they will, being able to solve them very, very, very quickly. So that is pretty much an overview there of pet peeves of mine, how to write better code, how to write better code using a tool like Prefix, and then also how to utilize a tool like an APM tool like Retrace to also be able to analyze and write better code for the entire team, being able to get those insights into the performance there. So with that, I will open it up with questions. And yeah.